Thanks and welcome to this demonstration of MetaLocator. To get started, we're going to take you through customer examples. So these are just different examples of MetaLocator software in use in the wild. I'm going to begin with sharing my screen and showing a few customer examples, beginning with Amazon Cash. MetaLocator supports Amazon's locator needs in about 8 or 9 countries and about 8 or 9 different languages. And so in this example, what you should see is Amazon Cash within the Amazon website, and it's also deployed in their mobile app and provides locator services for their Amazon Cash product. As you can see here, you should see that it is tightly integrated with their brand, meaning that there is no MetaLocator co-branding or any other visual indication that this is a third-party product, which is important for tight brand integration. And so with most locators, you can click on results on the left and interact with results on the right, and you can also filter by various options and then perform searches. This is a typical locator where you can also go to a details page that describes more information about a particular result, and you have the ability to navigate the results on the left, the results on the map, and then also into those detail pages. So now we're going to move on to other examples, and you can see how those same features play out in different ways. The next example is for a US installer of Skylights. And so this example demonstrates one of the recommended best practices for the initial presentation of the locator. What you can see here is that before I've performed any interaction at all with the locator, it has displayed results for me. It has pre-populated my zip code, and it is showing me results that are recommended by the brand itself, in this case, this Velux installer. They are interested in showing their highest performing dealers to the user, not necessarily their closest, but they still want them to be within a sensible radius. So let's zoom in on the results a little bit here. Notice this first result is 9.6 miles away. We can see that Brillo Home Improvements is 7.9 miles away, a little bit closer, but because Wisconsin Sunlight Solutions is actually one of their signature skylight specialists, and they also have reviews, Velux has used MetaLocator's features to promote them higher in the list and ultimately show the user the most preferred result and provide a bold call to action right away. So Velux's goal for this locator is to generate leads. And so the big bold call to action here is contact. Clicking contact brings up a simple lead generation form where I, as a potential consumer of Skylight products, could reach out to Wisconsin Sunlight Solutions and have that communication facilitated by MetaLocator. One of the neat things about MetaLocator is that Velux can actually determine how effective Wisconsin Sunlight Solutions is at responding to that lead inquiry by measuring the amount of time that it took to reply and whether or not they replied at all and whether or not they opened or took action on that lead. And they can then use that information, i.e. their responsiveness, to promote that result further still higher in the results. So the ranking factor of responsiveness can create a feedback loop whereby the highest performing dealers result in have the highest position in the results. And so this is a great example of a best practices with respect to initial presentation. So we're going to move on and look at a couple other examples to just kind of round out our demonstration. And one example here we have for the Centers for Disease Control. This is a blend of online and distance-based results. And so I can look at these national organizations that provide online training, diabetes prevention training. But I can also find resources that are near me that are also in person. And so the ability to search for resources both online and in person is a critical feature of MetaLocator that CDC has opted to use. Just a couple more examples that we can showcase. One of our customers is Hewlett-Packard, and they provide consumer electronics to home and home office, but then also to commercial businesses. This is their home and home office locator. It provides opportunities to buy products online, which is one of the more preferred methods of buying electronics. And then also we have the ability to buy in store. And so this is their UK example, and so we can see that we provide consumers the ability to buy online and buy in store. On the business side or commercial side, we have the ability to provide a completely separate locator that where the audience is for people looking to get commercial service done for their HP products. And so this is a way for people to come to this locator who might have 100 PCs or 1,000 PCs, and they might need to purchase or service one of those elements. So this locator is also very much driven around lead generation. And so we have that ability to, again, capture a lead. We can ask information about what type of lead. That is, they even go as far as asking what this person's estimated budget is and so forth in order to better qualify that lead. When it comes to lead qualification, one of the most important parts is segmentation. So when a new business inquiry is coming in, it's really important to know what channel they're coming in through. In this example, Flowserve is using our interstitial technology, which allows MetaLocator to display a hierarchy of choices that allow the user to choose various elements in order to bring them to the best locator. In this example, we can drill in through products, and then we'll choose pumps, for example, then maybe liquid pumps, and now we're brought to the locator with immediate actionable results for sales reps, and in this case also distributors, who provide liquid pumps. And this interstitial option allows you to build a little bit of a hierarchy before you present results to the end user. Another really common example of that is commercial versus home and home office. In this example, like we were showing before, we have HP's locator. They've leveraged our interstitial technology to allow people to choose whether they are looking for a consumer product or a business product. Clicking here will allow the end user to get to the right locator. Here we see another example of this interstitial technology where Trimble has chosen to have an industry dropdown, and then as the user chooses these dropdowns, they can load a special locator for each one of these areas. So if I go into geospatial, I get to the geospatial locator, which may have unique search rules, display, and other features that are specific to geospatial. I could also look, for example, at agriculture, and now I have different results, different calls to action, as those vary by the different audiences that Trimble has. The interstitial technology is really important when you need to bring different groups of people to different locators and who might have different calls to action. As you've been viewing these various customer examples, hopefully one of the takeaways is that you've been able to see the customer's brand, not so much MetaLocator's brand. If we've done our jobs right, the things that you see look like Amazon, right? They look like Velux. They don't look like a MetaLocator locator. So one of the big takeaways here is that hopefully if the project goes well, you should be able to have a locator that looks exactly like your brand, adheres to your brand standards, and provides a seamless experience for your customers. Now that you've had a chance to look at some of MetaLocator's real-world customer implementations, I would like to show you how to build some of these. It'll only take about 10 or 15 minutes, but what we're going to do is go through the process of creating a free MetaLocator trial account. We're going to import some example data. We're going to create a store locator and ultimately colorize that a little bit and make a few settings adjustments in order to make it ready to deploy on a website. And that should give you the important concepts with respect to getting started. And I'd like to mention that these trial accounts are free, and if you have the interest or inclination, you can go to www.metalocator.com, click any of the free trial calls to action, and create your own free trial account. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click sign up. I'm going to choose a pro plan and then enter my name, email address, password, and agree to the terms and conditions. I have to make my password a little bit strong. and that'll create a free trial account. The MetaLocator is going to guide you through every step in the process with respect to identifying what you're trying to build, importing data, geocoding it if necessary, building an interface, and then installing it on your website, as indicated by that toolbar across the top. So the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and click the green button and click Continue. It's going to ask us what we're trying to build. Ultimately, this tells MetaLocator what language to use, whether we're referring to dealers or doctors or banks or ATMs. I'm going to go ahead and choose Store Locator. And it's going to ask me, am I ready to import my stores? And I have some samples that you can download, but let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to pull up this example file. And this is a typical MetaLocator file. It's only got a handful of locations in it for simplicity, but these names of these columns, likely you should recognize them. You'll see name, address, city, state, postal code, phone, country. In this example, we already have latitude and longitude, but MetaLocator can geocode it. If you geocode these records if you don't have them. We have categories, which we'll get into, and then this location also has store hours. One thing I'd like to mention is that your columns could be very different. You could have custom fields, you could have different names for your columns, it's okay. In this example, we're going to insert an example custom field called favorite color. And we'll introduce some sample data in there, red, green, blue. Obviously, your locations probably won't have favorite color, but this will give you an idea of what the system will do when it sees a column it doesn't recognize. So now that I'm ready to import, I'm going to continue to import stores. I could also skip data importing at this stage and use built-in MetaLocator sample data. We're going to import our data from a CSV, that is the spreadsheet we were just looking at, but you could also pull this data from Google Sheets, Salesforce, Secure FTP. If you're a bank or credit union, we can pull your location data straight from NCUA or FDIC. Some locations also can pull in data from Google My Business if they exist in Google My Business, or we can pull in data from Yext. In this example, we're going to continue with importing a CSV. It's worth mentioning that these other data sources can be set up as recurring data imports, meaning we could connect to your Salesforce or a Google Sheet on the regular and import the data without you ever having to log into MetaLocator. We're going to go ahead and continue and import a CSV file. I'm going to go ahead and pick the file we were just looking at from my computer. And we're going to go ahead and upload it. And notice it's flagged that we have some unmatched columns. Scrolling off to the right, I can see all of these are marked as green because they match MetaLocator's fields. But I've got that one listed here called favorite color. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the default and allow MetaLocator to create that as a custom field on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Next. MetaLocator is going to provide some options with respect to how it should handle this data. You can add the data to the existing account. You can wipe out anything in the account and replace it. And then we have various synchronization options available for doing things like a bidirectional sync. For example, if I was importing a file that was missing some locations, the import could cause those locations to be deleted from MetaLocator if you wanted to keep two data sources in sync. In this case, since the account is brand new and empty, I'm just going to leave it at the default and choose Add. So I'll click Finish, and then the system will import the data, and now we have the option to look at all the records that were imported. If I look at these records, I can see each record just as it was in the spreadsheet. If I wanted to, I could go into one of these individual locations and I could make manual edits if that were ever necessary. So for example, if I wanted to tweak the store hours, or I wanted to manually adjust a location, I could drag it and drop it if I really knew that it was just up the street from where the geocoder placed it. So now that I have made a couple manual edits, I've got data in the system, now I can move on to creating an actual store locator. So I'm going to click the button to continue and create an interface. It's going to ask me what type of interface I'm trying to create, and to choose a template, I'm going to choose Rich Media Template because it has a lot of our features already baked in, and it's easier to remove them from the interface builder as opposed to adding them. I'm going to let the system create that. And it would give you a video demo if you wanted to watch that at this stage. I'm going to go ahead and close it since I'm going to actually show you most of the things that it was going to demo. One of the nice things about the interface builder is it has the options to choose on the left, and then you can see the immediate effect of those choices on the right. In this example, I'm showing the color chooser. So I have the option of picking these various colors. I can pick the primary color, and I can pick the secondary color according to my brand standards. And otherwise make changes on the left, and I can see those options reflected on the right. There's a ton of settings available here. All told, within any individual locator, there's roughly 700 options available. The interface builder makes it easy to manipulate those settings, and it presents the most important ones at the top. And so, but as we've been developing locators over the last decade and a half, we've run into a lot of different situations that our customers need to support. And so that's where that big feature set comes from. But you should find don't let that number scare you. You should find the interface builder easy to use with the point and click examples. Feel free to explore these various settings as you see fit, and when you get the locator to a state that you're satisfied with, you can go ahead and click Save and Continue, and the system will provide a single line of JavaScript installation code, which you can click to copy to your clipboard, and then you paste it on your website. Typically, users will create a new page within their content management system, and inside the body of the page, just like any other page you might create, instead of typing the content of that page, you would copy and paste this line of code, and then MetaLocator will appear directly where that code is pasted. So in this Amazon example, right below the logo is where the code is pasted. Similarly, in this example, right below their page title, Find an Installer, is where you'll find that one line of code from the MetaLocator installation process. And that's all there is to it. It's a one-time copy and paste operation. And then forever after, the locator and the data behind that locator can be maintained directly from that admin.metalocator.com. At this point in the demonstration, I've logged out of that initial trial account that we've created, and I've logged into an account that actually has some real traffic coming into it. In order to give you a feel for the types of analytics that MetaLocator can track, one of the most important parts of MetaLocator is its ability to measure the information and activity that occurs inside the locator. And so this is an example of a locator that is live, and when we log in, we can see immediately on the dashboard, instead of that welcome screen that we saw before, now we're greeted with an overview of the various actions that have occurred within the locator and whether those actions are increasing or decreasing over time. And so this is kind of an at-a-glance overview of the various elements that are occurring in this particular locator. And so as we look, we can modify the date range. For example, if we have a number of different interfaces, we can choose them from that list. But this is not necessarily a place for analysis, really a place to get a feel for the actions in the locator, which is why we show it to you every time you log in. So you will have a good feeling for what is happening in the locator based on the features that you're using. So you can see in this example, you can see the number of clicks to call that have occurred, the number of website clicks that are with respect to links that are found inside the results of the locator, how many times people have opened the marker window. This is an example of somebody who's not using our Get Directions feature, and so that's why that one's 0. Page views, visits, searches, those are really important. And then also in this case, the number of leads that are being generated, including the number of leads per day and the average response time in minutes that their dealers have to respond to a lead. And so you can see a good overview of what's occurring there. Diving into the lead generation piece a little bit more, on the lead system on the left that's represented by that little envelope icon, you can see a leads dashboard. It has the ability to export various information around your lead program. And you can see we have another date range selector, and we have the ability to look at lead generation over time, so you can see that this is the running total, and then you can see a number of leads collected by day. Drilling down, you can see the average acknowledgement time. So this is the amount of time that it would take an individual dealer on average to respond to a particular lead. And so you can even drill into an individual dealer and see what their particular average is for all of the leads that they've received. And in this example, we also report the number of leads per dealer, and how often those leads are, when those leads are potentially ignored. You can export all this information into a performance report, and again, the performance of those individual dealers can be used to promote their position in the locator results. Another analytics perspective is our heat map. This represents demand, search demand in the locator. So in this example, anytime anybody performs a search, the system determines the geographic center of that search and puts a dot on the map. So you can see that there's a lot of demand in New York, for example, LA, probably San Francisco, Florida. You can see those hot spots on the map. And again, this one can also be exported. This is a demand map. So you can see that if you have locations where you have demand, or you have locations, or you don't have locations where you do have demand, you can make adjustments accordingly. That is the MetaLocator Analytics heat map. Those pieces that we've seen so far were really just glances at MetaLocator's analytics database. This is the dashboard for that analytics database, and it shows a lot more information which can be used for analysis in a very detailed way in terms of seeing all the activity that occurs within your locator. So you can see the number of visits over time. You can choose the date range that you're analyzing. You can look at everything from page views to searches to server time, where people are coming from, the types of devices that they're using. You can see, for example, you can see a state-by-state breakdown. This is a real-time map of people who are on this locator right now. You can see if you're using any of our SEO products where they are coming from in those individual search engines. And so there's even yet further still a deeper dashboard available for this piece, but one of the important takeaways is that every event that occurs within the locator ends up in this analytics dashboard. And if there's a specific event that you need tracked, you can always extend the analytics so that it tracks custom events. And so that, I think, is a good summary of the analytics features within MetaLocator. Now I've logged back into that test account that we were looking at before, and I wanted to point out just a few areas of the software that we're not necessarily going to have time to cover today, as they might represent add-ons or other areas that aren't necessarily included and not necessarily of interest for every one of our customers. But one of the things that you might want to know is that MetaLocator can support locators in any language. For example, for HP's installation, we provide their locator in 35 countries and I think about just as many languages. And so MetaLocator has a complete internationalization platform available under language. You can generate what we call language files, which can then be handed off to translators and then re-imported into the system. And it makes it very easy to have your locator in any language that you want. The other piece that we didn't talk about is our review system. MetaLocator has the ability to collect reviews and display reviews for each one of your dealers or locations in your database. So if you have reviews, you can bulk import them and display them, like in that Velux example we were looking at. But you can also ask your end users to provide reviews to your individual dealers, and then those dealers further still can have control over whether those reviews are published or not, and whether you grant them that control or not. And so the internationalization piece and then also the reviews piece. Internationalization is included with every account. Reviews is now also included with every account. SMS and IVR, this is an add-on. MetaLocator provides the ability to expose the locator to an interactive voice response system. So for example, if you wanted to press 4 to find your nearest location over a phone tree that you may have, MetaLocator can provide the voice response in that example. Similarly, we can provide the same response over text. So a common call to action might be to text your location and then text your zip code and then receive a list of locations nearby that zip code. Another piece that's an add-on that we didn't talk about was MetaLocator's ability to create location pages, SEO optimized location pages for every record in the database. In this example, we're looking at Carter's. We have the ability to automatically generate a unique URL, crawlable, so you should see locations.carters.com. This one happens to be in Alabama. This page is crawlable by Google and it allows you to have your locations discoverable in Google in addition to your locator. And so that is the SEO piece, which of course we could do a complete demo on that. If you have any questions about these individual add-ons or any questions about MetaLocator in general, I encourage you to visit our support library. We have over 400 support articles at support.metalocator.com that explore all the areas that we've talked about and further still a lot more. And then of course you can always reach out and contact us and schedule a meeting to go over any of these questions that you have. But thanks a lot for your time and hope to talk with you soon.